Imagine one of the most gruesome crimes you can think of, uncovered by a thief breaking into an apartment. The moment he steps inside, he is hit by a foul, overwhelming stench and the sound of running water. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he creeps toward the bathroom. What he finds is a nightmare, a decomposing body in the bathtub with nothing left but bone. Terrified, he bolts for the exit, hitting the fire alarm on his way out so the police find the scene without him getting caught. To understand exactly what is happening and who lived in this home before this horror, we have to go back exactly 56 days. We find Ciara getting ready for work. She stops by a market to grab a salad for breakfast, unaware that a man is watching her from a distance. He follows her every move, eventually accidentally bumping into her to strike up a conversation. She brushes him off and leaves, but he's waiting for her outside. He cracks a joke, asking if she works for NASA because of the logo on her bag. Ciara realizes he's interested in trying to start a conversation. He introduces himself as Oliver, an architect. This time, she engages, explaining she bought the bag at a space museum in New York. Since he claims to love space too, the conversation flows perfectly, and he invites her for coffee. By total coincidence, they discover they work in buildings very close to each other. Sensing the mutual spark, Oliver builds up the courage to take things further, asking her out on a date to a restaurant with unique drinks and then a movie. Ciara agrees instantly. She only moved to the city a week ago and has no friends yet. She takes his phone to save her number, but the moment she turns her back, Oliver's entire expression shifts, turning into a look of unexplained malice and tension. Back in the present, Detective Reedon sits in her car outside Detective Carl's house, waiting to pick him up so they can head to the station together. A report comes in about the body found in the Cross district. She tells dispatch they'll be there in 10 minutes and shouts for Carl to hurry up. When they arrive, Carl is shocked that such a luxury building, one that looks like it belongs in Dubai, could be the site of such a crime. Security explains that someone pulled the fire alarm at dawn. While checking the units, they found an open door and a horrific smell, so they sealed the entrance and called the police. A local realtor named Kevin explains that the apartment is a corporate rental, used by various employees who cycle in and out. Flashback to 53 days before the crime. Oliver is the employee living in that apartment. He is getting ready for his date with Ciara. Before leaving, he pulls out a new ID and puts it in his wallet, tossing his old one aside. His name has changed from Oliver Jennings to Oliver Kennedy. It's clear he is hiding a mountain of secrets. When he meets Ciara at the restaurant, the waitress greets him warmly, saying she's happy to see him again. Ciara freezes. He had told her he found the place online and that this was his first visit. She doesn't let it slide and asks him why he started things off with a lie. Oliver visibly panics but manages to recover. He tells her he just wanted her to feel like they were discovering the place together for the first time because he likes her so much. Ciara buys the story, and they continue the date. She opens up to him, talking about her first crush in school and how she broke his heart after he fell deeply for her. The words hit Oliver like a physical blow. Feeling his control slip and his emotions spiral, he rushes to the bathroom. He tries calling his psychiatrist Dan, but grows more frantic when there's no answer. He can't make a single move in life without Dan's guidance. He leaves a voice message saying he's afraid he's going to make the same mistake again and begs him to call back. Feeling the night is ruined, Oliver calls an Uber to take Ciara home before she notices his state of panic. He promises to make up for the movie they missed, and suddenly he leans in close. Then he snaps back to his senses, pulls away abruptly and apologizes, saying he's afraid of rushing and ruining the relationship. Ciara stands there confused. She likes him too, so the apology feels unnecessary. In the present, Redden tries to enter the apartment to examine the crime scene, but she has to pull the door shut immediately because the smell is so unbearable. Meanwhile, Carl heads to the garage with the realtor to check the security footage. Flashback to 52 days before the crime. Ciara is back home, talking to her sister Sheila on the phone about her new life. They are clearly close, but when Sheila asks if there's anyone special in her life, Ciara dodges the question and hangs up. We then see Oliver at work. He works for Jean, a friend of his late father who treats him like a son. However, Jean's wife loathes Oliver. When he sees her entering the office, he hides to avoid her. Later, to make amends for his behavior on their first date, Oliver calls Ciara and they head to the cinema. In the middle of the movie, a space shuttle explodes on screen. While the rest of the audience sits in shocked silence, Oliver bursts out laughing. Everyone in the theater stares at him. No stable person would find a scene like that funny. To smooth things over after his behavior at the theater, Oliver waits for the movie to end and takes Ciara to the construction site he manages. He wants her to experience something like a hot air balloon ride using an industrial air pump. As she stands in front of the blast of air, she feels like she's actually flying. She's so thrilled by the experience that she ends up going back to his place. In the middle of the night, she wakes up and realizes he isn't in bed. She hears a strange noise coming from the other room and creeps out to investigate. She finds him sitting on the floor in deep meditation, so she quietly heads back to sleep. Back in the present, Detective Carl hands his phone to Redden. He's in a mess because a girl he spent the night with stole his service weapon while he was drunk, filmed a video with it, and posted it online. Redden lectures him, blaming his recent string of disasters on his downward spiral since his divorce. Forensics finally arrive and begin lifting prints and gathering evidence. Redden spots a woman's jacket draped over a chair, the very same jacket Ciara wore. On the 5th day of the countdown, Ciara is heading to work when a woman named Joman stops her. Joman warns her that Oliver is a very dangerous man. Ciara stays unnervingly calm, acting as if she already knows. She lies to Joman, claiming she and Oliver have been friends since college and don't need advice from a stranger. As soon as Joman walks away, Ciara secretly snaps a photo of her. Once she's on the subway, Ciara pulls out a notebook where she logs every detail of Oliver's life. It's revealed that everything she told him, her name, her father's history in the Navy, and her job, is a complete lie. She went to that market specifically to target him and had been watching him from the moment she walked in. In the present day, investigators discover the body decomposed so rapidly because it was treated with cleaning fluid and bleach, then placed near a small space heater. There's almost no evidence to identify the killer or the victim, but they find a size 37 high heel in the room. Redden theorizes this was a complicated, tragic romance between a poor girl and a wealthy man who eventually exploited and killed her. But her theory is far from the truth. Both Oliver and Ciara are hiding massive secrets. In a flashback, Ciara takes photos of herself to find the perfect one to send to Oliver. Her sister Sheila calls to check in since Ciara has been off the grid. Their mother is struggling, lost in memories of their late brother. Ciara hangs up and sends the photo to Oliver, asking him out to lunch. When they meet, he's charmed by her vintage 90s dress, but Ciara is focused on the fact that he always pays in cash. When she asks why he doesn't use cards, Oliver realizes she's trying to figure out where he keeps his money. He deflects the question and asks why she has no social media presence. Ciara quickly invents a story about her sister's accounts being hacked, claiming she deleted everything out of caution. Oliver finds the reaction a bit extreme, but lets it go. She suggests dinner at his place, but Oliver, wanting to dig into her life, insists they go to her apartment instead. She has no choice but to agree. She rushes home ahead of him, frantically hiding every document and item that could reveal her true identity, stuffing them all into a bag and concealing it. In the present, Carl notices cheap, low-quality clothes left in the bathroom. He finds it suspicious that someone living in such a luxury building would wear such basic clothing. He starts to suspect the killer staged the scene to mislead them. When he goes to find Redden, he sees her talking to a mysterious man. Sensing something is off, he notes down the man's license plate. When Redden returns, she's visibly flustered and claims the man is just a local informant. Carl pretends to believe her to avoid a confrontation. 10 days before the tragedy, Oliver is at Ciara's place. When her phone alarm goes off, she fakes a call with her landlord, pretending she's being forced out of her apartment for 3 weeks due to urgent repairs. She acts stressed about where she'll stay, and Oliver takes the bait. He invites her to move in with him. She plays hard to get for a moment before finally agreeing. When Oliver returns to his own home later, he finds a blank envelope addressed to his real name. The sight of it sends him into a spiral of rage and paranoia. He shreds the letter into 100 pieces and stays up. Oliver slams his fists against the wall in a fit of rage. He has cut ties with everyone from his past, so he can't understand who found him or what they want. In moments where he loses control like this, he calls his psychiatrist, Dan, to help him process his thoughts. Dan focuses immediately on the new woman in his life, asking if Oliver has been honest with her about his past. He warns Oliver that starting a relationship on a foundation of lies is a disaster waiting to happen. Dan even plants a seed of doubt, suggesting Ciara might be the one sending the letters since only family should know his address. He advises Oliver to destroy the letter and end things with her immediately. Oliver only takes half the advice. He burns the letter, but then calls Ciara and tells her to pack her bags and move in with him right away. Meanwhile, Ciara calls her sister to check on their mother, who is spiraling into alcoholism. Their lives are in shambles because their father took out a loan against their house and vanished, leaving them with a debt they can't pay. They have exactly 30 days before the bank seizes the property. Ciara reassures her sister that she will have the full amount by the end of the month. Her mother is certain that Ciara's confidence stems from something dangerous, but she doesn't press for details. She just wants the promise kept. When Ciara arrives at Oliver's place, he is visibly thrilled to have her there. He waits until he is sure she's asleep before pulling out a syringe and injecting himself. Within seconds, the powerful sedative knocks him out cold. But Ciara isn't actually sleeping, she's been faking it. As soon as he is completely under, she slips out of bed and begins a desperate attempt to crack his safe. In the present, Detective Reedon meets with Jean, the owner of the company where Oliver worked. Jean is clearly struggling to speak, deeply affected by the recent death of his wife. However, Carl senses that Jean isn't just grieving, he's hiding something and is terrified of speaking out. The conversation becomes incredibly tense, and Jean leaves abruptly before they can get any real answers. Back 45 days before the crime, Chiara confronts Oliver while holding the syringe he used, demanding to know what it is. He explains that he suffers from such severe insomnia and anxiety that he can go days without sleep until he can no longer distinguish between reality and hallucination. He claims the injection is a necessary sedative. He quickly changes the subject and drops her off at her workplace. There, Jomin is waiting, watching them closely. Oliver asks if she knows the woman, but Ciara feigns total confusion. As soon as he drives away, Ciara walks past Jomin and warns her to stay away for her own good. She then slips through the back door of the building and leaves. She doesn't actually work there. She spends her shift hiding in a cafe. Ciara calls her sister to tell her she's getting money from Saint Company, claiming they owe her family. Her sister is horrified as she starts connecting the dots. She asks if the Oliver she is dating is the same Oliver they knew years ago. Ciara refuses to go into detail, not wanting to trigger her sister's panic. Later that day, Oliver shows up unexpectedly in his boss's car to pick her up. Panicked that he'll realize she doesn't work there, Ciara sprints to the back entrance of the building to make it look like she's just finished her shift. She manages to pull off the charade just in time. Back at the apartment, Oliver insists on making lunch while Ciara showers. He uses the opportunity to check the mail, finding another blank envelope addressed to his real name. This time, there's a phone number inside. Fear paralyzes him. He deletes the number and throws the letter in the trash. The stress is so intense that he goes 3 straight days without a second of sleep. Desperate for more medication, he drives to see Dan. On the way, he spots a blue car following him and panics, thinking it's his ex-girlfriend. In reality, it's Jomin. At the clinic, Oliver lies to Dan, claiming he and Ciara broke up because they weren't a good match. Dan tries to convince him that no one is following him and that he's just hallucinating from exhaustion. He hands Oliver a bottle of pills and a chocolate bar laced with illegal substances to calm his nerves. Oliver is livid. He knows what he saw, a red-haired woman in a blue car tailing him. Meanwhile, Ciara is back at the apartment, trying every possible combination to open the safe. She fails again and nearly has a heart attack when Oliver walks in unexpectedly. She quickly fakes a distraction to keep him from getting suspicious. In the present, Raiden is on edge. Her boss confronts her about her connection to Linus, the drug dealer Carl saw her with. When she tries to lie, her boss reveals she has photos of Raiden in Linus's car. This is clearly more than just a routine interrogation. Later, when she gets into the car with Carl, he brings up the same topic. He's hurt that he had to find out she was lying from someone else. Raiden asks him to drop it for now, not wanting to ruin her image in his eyes further. Instead, she gives him a massive update on Oliver. He is actually the son of the billionaire who owns Saint Company. He disappeared 16 years ago after being the lead suspect in the death of a classmate. Oliver remains suspicious of Ciara. He tells her bluntly that if she's after the safe, she's wasting her time. It was in the apartment when he moved in, and he doesn't even know the code. Ciara just scoffs, letting him think he's misread her. As soon as he leaves, she jumps onto his laptop. It's her last chance to get what she came for. She hacks into his bank account and transfers $100,000 to herself. Since the transfer takes about 2 weeks to clear, she has to keep living with him. But the truth is, she's starting to catch real feelings and uses the money as an excuse to stay. She calls her sister immediately to share the good news. Meanwhile, Oliver is at the gym when he spots the red-haired woman watching him again. This time, he chases her to confirm she's real and not a hallucination. He follows her car and is shocked to discover she lives in his own building. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, he smashes her car windows with a metal bar. The building's realtor catches him on the security feed and rushes down to intervene. Seizing the opportunity, the realtor offers to delete the footage for a price. Oliver hands over all the cash he has, but makes one more request. He asks the realtor to beat him up, hoping the physical pain will drown out the anger inside him. Back at the apartment, Oliver has a video call with Dan to recount the incident. Ciara returns home and overhears the conversation. She hears Dan insisting that Oliver must leave her, claiming their relationship is making his hallucinations worse. Ciara realizes Dan isn't just a therapist. He's a puppeteer controlling every move Oliver makes. She confronts Oliver, offering to be the person he talks to instead, but he snaps at her for overstepping and storms out. Haunted by Dan's words, he goes to Jomin's apartment to find out what she wants. She reveals she is the one sending the letters and that she knows everything about his past. Oliver tries to keep his cool, pretending she has the wrong man. Later, he returns to Ciara and apologizes for his outburst. In the present, Detective Reedon is hunting for Jomin. She found a note with Jomin's number in the trash and realized she lives in the building, but Jomin has seemingly vanished. Later, while having lunch with Carl, Raiden finally confesses the truth about Linus. She reminds Carl of a drug dealer case from the previous year. She explains that after the case was closed, Linus started sending her gifts. She resisted at first, but eventually gave in. Carl is stunned that she accepted bribes, but seeing her break down in tears of guilt, he holds back his judgment. Back in the past, day 32 of the countdown arrives. Ciara finds the truth chocolate Oliver got from Dan. She's excited to try it, having read that a few squares can make someone reveal all their secrets. She nags Oliver until he finally agrees. Meanwhile, her sister finally sees the money hit her account. Oliver and Ciara go out for lunch and run into Jean, his wife, and Joman. Oliver is desperate to flee, but Ciara insists they sit with them to see what's really going on. When Oliver steps away, Joman warns Ciara for the third time that Oliver is a killer who caused his friend's death. Ciara's reaction is chilling. She calmly tells them she already knows and to mind their own business. It turns out Joman is a journalist trying to corner Oliver for an interview about the incident. Jean's wife adds fuel to the fire, telling Ciara about Oliver's ex-fiancé who fled the moment she learned the truth. Ciara is stung that he could tell his ex, but not her. In the bathroom, Jomine corners Ciara. She's overheard the talk about the money and realizes Ciara is a thief. She tries to blackmail Ciara, convince Oliver to do the interview or she'll report the theft. Ciara doesn't flinch at the weak threat. She pins Jomine against the wall by her throat, making it clear she's not betraying Oliver. She took his money, sure, but she's the only one actually trying to help him. Terrified, Jomine disappears. When Ciara finds Oliver, he's staggering from the effects of the drugged chocolate. She leads him to a quiet spot and tries to get him to confess, but he's paralyzed by the fear that the truth will make her hate him forever. He can't even catch his breath. Panicking, she tries to calm him down, guiding his breathing and placing headphones over his ears. She plays a brown noise track to drown out his racing thoughts, telling him to close his eyes and just listen. While he's drifting, she finally whispers the truth. Her name is Megan, and she moved here specifically to get close to him. She knows everything about his past and spent years planning her revenge against the monster she thought he was. But the closer she got, the more she fell for the man he actually is. She had hoped he would be honest with her so they could start fresh, but that never happened. When Oliver finally opens his eyes, she's gone. Back in the present, Detective Reedon raids Joman's apartment. She's stunned to find a room filled with photos of Oliver and news clippings about the old accident. It isn't just journalism, it's an obsession. Jomine arrives and tries to explain herself, claiming she was just a reporter chasing a comeback story. She calls Oliver a psychopath and labels Ciara a con artist, a match made in hell. Meanwhile, Carl takes a call in the other room and accidentally knocks over a file containing photos of the body in the bathtub. He freezes. How did these photos get here? Who took them? And when? He notices a black raincoat in the apartment, the exact same one the thief wore when they broke into the unit. Jomine wasn't just a journalist, she was the intruder who triggered the fire alarm. They arrest her on the spot. Later, Carl visits the medical examiner for an update, only to receive a shock that flips the case upside down. The body in the tub is a man, not a woman. This changes everything. Oliver might be the victim, and Ciara might be the killer. In the present, Redden meets with Linus in his car. Their connection isn't just about bribes, it's a twisted romance. She tries to end it to save her career, but Linus isn't the type to just let go. He's about to attack her when Carl, who had been tailing her, intervenes. He warns Linus that if he ever touches her again, he's going straight to prison. Flashback to the past. Oliver returns home to find Ciara packing her bags. Terrified of losing her, he decides to tell her everything, even if it makes her hate him. He tells her that in high school, he and his two best friends, Paul and Sean, were hanging out by the river. A playful argument turned into a physical fight between Paul and Sean, and they accidentally fell into the water. Paul drowned, and Oliver claims he just stood there, paralyzed by fear, unable to do anything. He says he's lived in lonely, guilt-ridden silence ever since. Megan explodes in a rage, calling him a liar and a fraud. She grabs her bag and storms out. When she gets to her own place, her sister Sheila is waiting. Sheila has figured out the whole plan and tries to convince Megan that Oliver is already paying for his sins through his mental suffering. Megan isn't buying it. She asks Sheila if she's really defending a killer, especially after the risk they took with the money. Sheila pulls out a gun and hands it to Megan, insisting they need to finish Oliver off for good. Megan tells her to stay out of it. She'll handle it her way. Oliver, meanwhile, is spiraling. He goes to Megan's apartment only to find out from a neighbor that she disappeared ages ago and that there were never any repairs being done. He heads to her office and gets a second blow. They've never heard of her. He starts laughing hysterically at the sheer scale of the deception. Everything was a lie. At the same time, Sheila visits Dan, the psychiatrist. She warns him to keep Oliver away from her sister or she'll expose everyone's secrets. Back at the apartment, Oliver finds Megan's notebook hidden under a pillow. He realizes she targeted him from the start to rob him. Overwhelmed by the betrayal, he takes a heavy sedative to shut his brain off. Hours later, he's woken up by his phone. It's Dan calling to tell him that Ciara is actually Megan, Sean's sister. But it's too late. Megan is already sitting right next to him. She answers the phone herself, telling Dan not to worry because Oliver already knows everything. She hangs up and stares at him. To understand the full story, we have to look back 16 years to the day of the accident. Sean and Oliver were at the river when Paul arrived, already angry over his parents' divorce. Paul took a joke the wrong way and attacked Sean. They both ended up in the water, struggling. Oliver didn't just stand there watching. He broke through his fear and jumped in to save Sean. In the chaos of the struggle, Oliver held Paul's head under the water until he stopped moving. Sean managed to scramble out to catch his breath, unaware of the exact moment it happened. Oliver didn't just fail to save his friend. He actively killed him to save the other. In the shock of the moment, Oliver and Sean decide to bury the truth forever. They act as if nothing happened, telling everyone they were busy with school and studying. But the guilt begins to eat Oliver alive. He can't function, spending his days in a state of total collapse until he finally breaks and confesses everything to his billionaire father. His father, obsessed with protecting the family name, hires a specialized lawyer who twists the facts and frames Sean for the entire tragedy. Oliver's mental state shatters. He has killed one friend and sent another to prison. In a fit of self-loathing, he uses a sharp object to wound himself deeply. The next day at school, he sits bleeding in his car, unable to move. A man named Dan, a social worker at the time who was still studying to be a therapist, finds him. Seeing a boy living in a massive house with an absent mother and a busy father, Dan spots the perfect target. He convinces Oliver's father to hire him as a private therapist, giving him total control over the boy to ensure the family's secrets stay buried while he milks them for money. Back then, Megan was just a child, but she was the only one who knew her brother wasn't alone that day. She had seen Oliver in the car. When she tried to tell her mother, she was dismissed as a child just looking for attention. Because of that silence, Sean was found guilty and sent to prison. Years later, when Oliver tried to send Sean a letter to make amends, Dan intercepted it. Fearing his cash cow would be ruined if the truth came out, Dan visited Sean in prison. He manipulated the boy's mind, convincing him that the only way to be seen as truly innocent by the world was to end his own life. Sean fell for the trap, and a few days later, his family received the news of his death. Megan's sister, Sheila, has always carried the weight of that day too. She once told Megan that even if they had spoken up, the result would have been the same because, in their world, money writes the law. Back in the flashback, Oliver finally wakes up from the sedatives and finds Megan waiting for him. She explains her entire plan and her initial hatred, but admits she saw the good person buried under his trauma. Oliver finally confesses the truth, that Sean was innocent and he was the one responsible. In return, Megan admits she loves him, choosing to abandon her quest for revenge. In the present, detectives Redden and Carl are driving together when a car pulls up and opens fire on them. Redden is certain it's Linus, the drug dealer, and Carl realizes that if they don't act, he will never stop hunting them. Flashback to 34 days before the crime. Dan arrives at the apartment to check on Oliver, terrified that Megan might have already finished him off. Instead, he finds them having a peaceful breakfast. He tries to poison Oliver's mind, calling Megan a manipulator and warning him that his past will resurface and ruin him. Megan steps out of the room to let them talk, and Oliver finally stands up for himself. He accuses Dan of isolating him for years, just to profit from his pain. Dan drops the act and lays it out plainly. Pay him $5 million or he goes to the police with the old letters and recordings of Oliver's confessions. Megan intervenes, striking Dan in the head with a blunt object and killing him on the spot. The two sit before the body, paralyzed, until Sheila arrives to save them. She suggests the cleaning fluid and heater method, something she read about in an old local case where the killer was never caught because the police couldn't identify the victim in time. They follow her instructions perfectly, pack their things, and board a private jet to flee the country. Megan leaves her mother a letter of apology along with a check for $1 million. In the present day, the forensics report finally comes back. The body in the bathtub is Dr. Dan. Redden and Carl realize the real killers are gone, so they decide to kill two birds with one stone. They plant Linus's chain at the crime scene, framing the drug dealer for the murder. It's the perfect end. They get a criminal off the streets and close the case with a neat bow. Years later, Oliver and Megan are living in a quiet coastal town, raising their son and finally finding the peace they thought was impossible. That's the end of our story.